live from New York. It's a show that's not 100% locked in. I'm 110% locked in. Personal proceeds.
That's one failure.
Yeah,
one effort.
It's good. Today. Okay, Brew, your reaction.
I think LeBron misspoke. We all know LeBron's a basketball savant. Knows the history and obviously the ins and outs of basketball. But I think he meant to say Kyrie is the most skilled. But because so many people, Chauncey Billups and a host of others, have already said that, I think he was trying to use a different word.
A synonym for skill?
Yeah, and use gifted. That's my opinion, because I don't think Kyrie is anywhere close to the most gifted player ever in the NBA.
Gifted as like God-given talent?
Yes, a gift is something I give you, something you give me. I have little to do with that. Yeah. Kyrie is arguably the most skilled player in NBA history, but gifted, Allen Iverson, blazing speed, De'Aaron Fox, blazing speed, that's a gift.
I would say a lot of Giannis's game
a jumping 7-foot athlete, because height is a gift.
Yes.
LeBron at 6'8", 250, no fat on him, as coordinated and as athletic and as fast as a 5'6" person, that's gifted. That's just something you were born with. Yeah. What makes Kyrie Irving outstanding is skill. And skills you got to work. I don't care how gifted your hand-eye coordination, they're all gifted to a degree. But relatively speaking to other NBA players, Kyrie's handle, you got to work on that. He's the best ball handler, I think, in NBA history. That's something you worked at to develop the skill. The jump shot. Of course, part of it's a gift, but most NBA guards are gifted to some degree in shooting jumpers, but he's become one of the best shooters in the league. That's something you got to work at. His footwork, his finishing ability, all of that is stuff you got to work at. All right, so, I mean, I think LeBron is more gifted. I think Wemby is more gifted. I think Giannis is more gifted. I mentioned Iverson, like guys that have just that some type of Vince Carter or athletic ability that you're just born with. They all work hard, but Kyrie is skilled. And so I just think, I'm assuming that's what LeBron
All right, so before, you guys can see it on social media, before the show we did a thing about the prettiest games, and I came in kind of preemptively annoyed about that because I was actually annoyed about this because I think, first of all, man, in the future, can we not have 9 days between the end of the conference finals and the finals? Because we have already we've gone to the Celtics might be wildly overrated or the greatest team in NBA history. Yeah. We had a minor gender, race, and sports crisis involving the WNBA that might still be flaming about different sectors. And now it's like, hey, that Kyrie Irving guy, Is he in the GOAT conversation here pretty soon? Like, we're just keep going further with it. So my question is, what does any of this mean? What do so many of these conversations, there is no correct answer. Because, Brew, if it is overall skill, which I guess when we say skill, we mean, like you were saying, the things you have to work at. Right. I personally think of my lifetime, the most skilled player is Steph Curry. Because if Kyrie's the best ball handler, Steph's in the top three. And some would say, and Steph is clearly the best shooter, and that to me is not, it clearly has a little God-given nature to it since Dell was a great shooter and he is, and his brother is. Right, there must be some genetics to it that I haven't quite figured out, but that skill, if we're talking about, because the other thing is these conversations only seem to apply to people under a certain height. So if it's like undersized impact, I think
but guards have to have more skills.
But if it's like pound for pound, I think it's Isaiah Thomas. If it's the guy who, overcame the most given his physical limitations, I guess it's Muggsy because he's 5'3" and had a 10-year career.
Sure.
If we're talking about just overall ability to do everything despite physical limitations, is it maybe Joker? Is he eligible? Like, Joker obviously has no God-given athleticism aside from height.
Is his size, his strength.
His height, yeah. And so but so much of his stuff is learned skill. Strength. So that was so that's the other thing. Why is he more skilled or gifted or whatever than Luka?
Can I answer it?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so my idea was this. For every, and sometimes you see these on YouTube, you see an antecedent for every cool basketball play. The most obvious connection is like Kobe to Jordan.
Right.
And then you see like they do with Anthony Edwards in Jordan. Like, wow, this move looks like that move. And then you can go a step further back.
You
like,
see
wow.
some Luka LeBron clips with the
Yeah,
passing.
it's like, oh, I see. Every generation kind of builds on the last generation's moves, and you move them forward a little bit. Except Kyrie does stuff, feels like every other game, we're like, I don't know if there's an antecedent for the move that I just saw. And that's what I think LeBron's saying. He does stuff that you've never seen before. Wemby does stuff that we've never seen, but it's more of, like you said, that's more of a gift. Like, wow, you're dunking your own three-point miss. But Kyrie is doing weird stuff where he's putting reverse English on the ball, fade away, that you haven't seen. So that's why I think, like Luka, we've seen all of Luka's stuff in different players in NBA history. I don't think we have seen the Kyrie package in history.
So I think that for a lot of the best players of all time, and Kyrie's not quite on that list, but he is like on the most iconic.
Yeah.
They are one of one specifically. Kobe is a weird element of that because he was modeling his game specifically after someone. So it's like he wasn't really even trying to be one of one. But why is he more gifted or skilled than Magic? Like, because
well, you would say the ball handling,
right? But Magic's
much
passing.
Better. But his shooting is much better than Magic's.
But that's also why this conversation can frustrate me, because the other piece of it is, okay, so we, in these gifted, skilled conversations, we are just also saying whatever defense is, it's neither one of them. Or else Drew Holiday's like, hey, where do I fall on this list for just right now? How did I become this great defensive player? Was it God-given? Then I guess I'm gifted. Was it hard work? Then I guess it's skill. Like, where does his coach, Jason Kidd, fall in this conversation?
Well, he didn't shoot. I don't think it's that complicated.
It's dribbling and shooting, and that's it?
I think it's dribbling, shooting, passing, footwork, ability to score at every level. Kyrie can finish. Kyrie can do the runners. Kyrie can do mid-range. His jump, at every level, he's great. And I think that's what, I don't count defense as a skill. I think defense is hard work, and if you have a requisite level of strength and of athleticism, you can defend if you want to, if you have the want to. So I don't think it's that difficult. Olajuwon, interestingly, with all his moves in the post, would be incredibly skilled. I agree with you mentioned Isaiah, Steph. They're all in the discussion, as is Kyrie.
As I think Magic should be.
How about that?
Because Magic,
he just wasn't the ball handler or the shooter.
But he was so demonstrably a greater passer than any of these guys.
Yeah.
Except, Isaiah was a great passer.
But yeah,
Steph's Magic was just in a different category. Sometimes it feels like we are redefining certain words to make the statements correct. Like, I have heard Kyrie called one of the most skilled players ever for a while now. Right. And then it's like, so what does skill mean? And it's like, oh, specifically and exclusively the things Kyrie's great at. Yeah. And the other stuff, there's something else, not skill. And I'm not taking a shot at Kyrie here. It's why the conversation's tough. And then LeBron used it gifted, and you said it was totally threw it out.
Yeah, I don't think gifted is fits.
Before we move on, you kind of went hard at LeBron there.
What do you mean?
Well, your whole thing that you're pushing back against, we didn't say gifted. LeBron said it. You've got to take it up with Clutch.
Yeah, well, I don't like any. I just think a lot of these conversations are a bridge too far for my taste.
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
He was upset, legitimately upset.
I just think it's. I honestly.
Wow.
Go.
Okay. You're instigating.
LeBron's win percentage with Kyrie, about 728. Without Kyrie, 633. Still pretty good, but he had some high peaks with Kyrie. Nick, your reaction?
Yeah, can we refer back to this video and this conversation the next time we hear about how LeBron runs the Lakers? They had two opportunities to get him, via trade or sign him. Wendy said this morning that this offseason before he re-signed with Dallas, the 3 for $120, that the Lakers could have and opted instead to bring back the Western Conference Finals core. They certainly could have offered a better trade than the one that was reported yesterday, which was 2 firsts and Russell Westbrook, which at the time Russell Westbrook was considered almost a negative asset. I understand it was an expiring contract, but that was because the Mavs
You're figuring, maybe he could play with KD.
Right. The Mavs got him for a 2029 first, 2 seconds, Dinwiddie, and Dorian Finney-Smith. And the Lakers opted against surpassing that. And by the way, I am not here saying I criticize Rob Pelinka a lot. I think it's justified. I was not all in on the Lakers selling the farm for Kyrie Irving, if you remember, because of where he was in his career at that time. The point so this isn't about me killing the Lakers for not doing it. It is about killing the narrative that the Lakers moves, they just do what LeBron wants. Because what it feels to me is, yes, he pushed for them to sign Russell Westbrook or trade for Russell Westbrook, and they did, and it was a mistake. But there have been other things he wanted them to do or didn't want them to do that they did or didn't do, and we just forget it. So that's
even though they're about to hire that guy, he was.
Well, but yeah, but I know. I'm just. And we'll get to that in a moment.
LeBron's behind it. I'm just playing. Look, I will say this. Obviously, Kyrie loves playing with Luka, right? I mean, he's probably, I would say he's having the most fun he's had in his NBA career.
He said this has been the most gratifying season.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I assume they're going to stay together for several years. But I do know from talking to people in the know, like, this is mutual between LeBron and Kyrie. Like, Kyrie really understands how he kind of blew it by leaving LeBron. Now, he's resurrected. Everything's working out now. But he really, just as much as LeBron would like to play with Kyrie, Kyrie feels the same way, even though, of course, he's not leaving Luka.
About 90 minutes ago, Brew, he said almost exactly that.
I didn't even know that.
Right, it was right before he went on the Aries Hilton press conference where he said something similar. About looking back mutual. Fondly, about kind of regretting how it ended and all of that. So go ahead.
But, look, and I say this, LeBron, when I was one of the few, if not the only, national media that didn't criticize LeBron when he went to Miami, right? Everybody was killing him. I was not, because I felt like, look, Magic and Bird had big threes. If your team can't get you a big three, then you go create it yourself if you can. And that's all LeBron did. But I think I did feel like I thought he sold himself short. Because I thought he could have won it with that Cleveland team, and then the GOAT conversation is a lot different, at least for those of us who have Jordan as the GOAT. And I think since he was in Miami, I think LeBron, I think he's too good to keep talking about, I want him. I want him. I want him. You've had Anthony Davis the last 5 years. I get reminiscent about Kyrie and all that. But the constant, like, retooling the roster, talking about we got to get back. I'm like, man, you that guy. You are good enough, especially when you have Anthony Davis, you don't have to be publicly clamoring for other players. And I just say this kind of comes on. Obviously, it's not going to happen again. I said a month or two ago, the only way I think the Lakers win the championship is if they get Kyrie, and that's obviously not happening now. So I just thought LeBron's better. He's such a better player than to have to be saying you want this guy and that guy and all that.
Wendy also baked in Kyrie, said, hey, you could come to Dallas. Are you giving that a snowball chance?
So I think it had a greater chance before they went on this run. Right. I would, just like I said, I think Philly is possible. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's 10% even. But I don't know if people notice Philly all of a sudden, was one of the teams that Bronny might be working out for. Like, I think Philly's on the board. If Dallas had gotten clipped in round 1 by the Clippers, no pun intended.
Looked like they needed it.
Or even if they had lost in round 2 to the number 1 seed OKC and we weren't having this whole Luka, Kyrie, renaissance, then I would have thought, yeah, maybe. Like, maybe. But I don't think... I think they're going to win the championship. Even if they don't, if they don't, I guess possibly maybe a tiny bit, but probably not. And if they do, I just don't think, Again,
And
even
also,
at 40 years old in year 22, I still don't think he's like allowed to do that.
Well, also, it wouldn't be like the old times. It wouldn't be him and Kyrie show. I mean, Luka would be the guy with the ball in his hands, and so it wouldn't be the same anyway. So.
Correct. Finally, JJ Redick. Now, according to Shams, the Lakers are zeroing in on JJ as the Lakers' next coach. JJ, for the record, telling the Golics that right now he's focused on prepping to announce the finals. All right. Brew, do you expect this to work?
Well, work is a championship, I assume, right?
How about this? Do you expect him to be the coach for at least 5 years?
Well, here's what, let me, championship, no. All right, I don't think they're going to win the championship. To your question, the thing he does have working for him is that apparently they think he's the next Pat Riley. And if that's the case, they're going to give him a long leash. You would agree with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, part of Sham's report was really weird. He was like, and the Lakers expect this to be a 4, 5, even 6-year partnership. And I read that, and I'm like, isn't that what you should expect
from every
with
coach.
every coach you've ever hired in sports history? That's like, hey, the plan, by the way, to be clear, is what's special about JJ is we don't expect to fire him in 3 years. Like, I would think whoever you hire, that's the plan.
And that's what he's got going for. And then, of course, he's got a good rapport and relationship with LeBron. So he steps in the door with those two things in his favor. But Frank Vogel won the championship, got fired, and we know the last year he was there, only 33 wins. But Darvin Ham takes a team that won 33 games to the Western Conference Finals his first year, wins the in-season tournament for whatever that's worth, and then gets fired. So what if the Lakers go out in the first or second round the next 2 years, which is very plausible? Is he going to survive that? I mean, again, if they think he's Pat Riley, maybe he's there for the duration. But I would
Pat
say
Riley
no. If you
won
ask
at
me
a
that
high
5
level
years,
pretty quickly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
I don't know if Pat Riley would have gotten the chance to be Pat Riley if he didn't win as quickly as he did.
True.
Listen, Phil Jackson left the Lakers in 2011. Since then, Mike Brown, Mike D'Antoni, Byron Scott, Luke Walton, Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, and now seemingly JJ Redick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coaches in 13 years. And by the way, in between Riley and Phil Jackson, the Riley and Phil Jackson, you had Dunleavy, Fund, Magic, Dell, who actually, Dell Harris lasted a bit, Kurt Rambis, and then in the 1 year Phil was gone, Rudy, and I'm not even counting interims. This is a franchise that, except for Pat and Phil, just churns through coaches, and that, believe it or not, was not all LeBron's doing, because most of those happened before he was there. I am, to use one of Brew's words, gobsmacked by this. I remember when it was first tweeted that JJ was getting an interview with the Hornets. And I texted it to you because, to be fair, I texted Wildes like, man, I am going to grind so much Hornets film just to try to see it.
I already do.
Kind of poking at JJ jokingly. But that job, we were like, really? You're going to, fresh out of the announcing booth, before the podcast even started, you're going to make this guy the head coach? We saw something like this with the Nets with Steve Nash. It was a disaster. I don't like the Steve Kerr examples. Did not work. The Steve people like, what about Steve Kerr? He ran a team. He ran a front office. It's just different. Like
Mark Jackson. I mean, there's been one. Larry Bird, Mark Jackson worked.
Isaiah. Doc came fresh out of.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's never worked.
No, there's both. There's examples of both sides.
I just can't believe that we have, it's like the boiling frog of coaches. Like, we've just gotten used to the idea. Oh, yeah, JJ Redick is going to be the head coach of the Lakers? He's going to be the head coach of the Lakers. JJ Redick is. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, I expect it now. When it was 6 weeks ago, the idea that he might be the head coach of the Hornets, we were like, wow, that's something. But I guess the Hornets are thinking outside the box. Like, I don't get it. I flatly don't get it.
I mean, once Budenholzer was gone, which I think might have been high on their list, It was like you weren't hiring anybody that people were going to be like, oh, that's a definite upgrade.
Can I
I mean, unless
Sam Cassell. I like JJ Redick.
I think they should have hired Sam.
Then one of the.
But even saying we wouldn't have known. Okay, is that an upgrade? I think he.
But one of JJ's
well.
things that he has going for him is like, he'll have Sam. He wants Sam Cassell on the bench. I'm like, well, okay.
Sam was a leader when he was a player, and he's paid his dues.
Do you guys agree with me, just very quickly, that on the pros cons list of hiring JJ, one of the pros is the exact kind of joke Brew made 10 minutes ago? She says, well, if this doesn't work out, people will just say LeBron made us do it. He's LeBron's podcast co-host. It to me is
whether
that is
LeBron had anything to do with it or not,
that to me is one of the biggest things he has going for him in the Lakers front office eyes is by the time if we have to fire him, LeBron's probably retired at that point anyway, and it can all be laid at his feet. Look at all this crazy stuff LeBron made us do. He made us draft this kid and hire his co-host. Like, what do you want us to do? It's LeBron James, folks. And then Rob Pelinka just keeps working.
You are right about that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.